by clicking on this video link and wanting to hear my narration of this character, you must be ready to ignore all that you know, for Wolverine's origin is deep and extremely complicated. A lot of the writing post-Larry Hama has not been up to par with the character's traits, and some don't accept the continuity established. So the question is this: what do we believe and what do we refuse to accept? I'm going to narrate the best I can from the character's first appearance in the 1970s to roughly the mid to late 1990s. Facts and information will be given chronologically from Logan's childhood to his adult years. The information presented will be what fans prefer to know and what key writers originally wanted the character to portray. Lastly, the information offered is a combination of what I know, as well as information found from across the internet and comics found by some friends of mine. This is going to be a very detailed account, so I suggest you sit down, grab a soda and sandwich, adjust the volume, and get ready to hear the true origin of the Wolverine. Part 1. The Forgotten Origin. Best of Marvel Comics, 1987. The Hunter. Writer Chris Claremont. Though Wolverine's Canadian heritage was apparent from his first appearance, this story represents for the first time that Wolverine explicitly states that he is, quote, Canadian by birth, end quote. Iron Fist, issue 15, September 1977. Enter the X-Men. Writer Chris Claremont. Iron Fist notes that Wolverine's sheer ferocity is reminiscent of Sabertooth and wonders if there is a connection. Apparently for a while there was. According to John Byrne, there were plans to reveal Wolverine's father as a character already appearing in the Marvel Universe. Chris Claremont confirms that the character was supposed to be Sabertooth. Claremont further admits that, quote, Sabertooth already considered Logan as sloppy seconds to his original, end quote. Wolverine, issue 41, early July 1991, down in the bottoms. Writer Larry Hama. In fact, while tracking down each other in the New York City sewers, Logan and Sabertooth both experience a memory that Sabertooth is Logan's father. Wolverine, issue 42, late July 1991. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Writer Larry Hama. Later, a S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist performs blood analysis to prove that Sabertooth is not Logan's biological father, proving the previous memory to be a memory implant. Wolverine, issue 126, July 1998. Blood Wedding. Writer Chris Claremont. Sabertooth asks Logan, have you ever come to terms with the fact that I'm the original and you're just the sloppy seconds? So while Sabertooth might not be Logan's father, Chris Claremont recanted the original sentiment within their relationship. So if Sabertooth is not Logan's father, does he know who his father is? Apparently he does. Wolverine miniseries, issue 1, September 1982. I'm Wolverine. Writer Chris Claremont. Logan notes that he knows his father, and that's as far back as he can trace his lineage or family descent. As for his mother... Havoc and Wolverine, Meltdown, issue 1, 1988, Mexican Standoff. Writers Walter and Louise Simonson. In conversation with Alex Summers, Logan readily acknowledges that he doesn't know who his mother was. Marvel Comics presents issue 72, 1991, Weapon X, Prologue. Writer Barry Windsor Smith. Logan bitterly claims not to know, quote, who Ma was, end quote. This moment of reflection takes place just before to the bonding of the adamantium process to his skeleton. In other words, he refers to his mother in the past tense in 1960 before the Experiment X memory altercations. Logan does seem to have a vague memory of his childhood. Wolverine, issue 25, June 1990, Air Aid. Writer Joe Duffy. In Madge Rapport, Logan tells a story to a scared child to help calm his nerves. The story is clearly from Logan's childhood and chronicles the life of a young boy in the frontiers of Canada. Quote, cast up by his people because he was small and weak, and so their leader, his father, decided that the boy was a coward and useless, and the boy believed his people were right about him, end quote. When the child asks for the boy's name, Logan ignores him but reveals in his inner monologue that the boy mentioned could have been himself. The boy wanders the snow-covered mountains of Canada, meeting up with a pack of vicious Wolverines. Strangely, the normally solitary Wolverines adopt the child, but after many years, the child learns happiness. He notices that he is resistant to weather and that his body has a healing ability. He also senses are as keen as the Wolverines and hones them even more by hunting with his adopted family. One day, the child is captured by hunters and caged for transport as a freak show star. The Wolverines attack the hunters and help to free the boy. Between the wild child and the Wolverines, the hunters don't stand a chance. The story ends with the child and animals feasting on the corpses, with the knowledge that the child was not, nor has he ever been known as, a coward. Wolverine, Bloody Choices, June 1991. Writer Tom DeFalco. After rescuing a young street kid in Hawaii, Wolverine flashes back to his childhood, remembering when he was, quote, a wild boy who grew up untamed and fearless, relying on his own feral instincts simply because his mutant body contained a healing factor which could cure any injury, end quote. So this is the childhood that Logan believes to be fact. Disowned by his father, Logan came to live in the wild, raised by the mountains. Did Logan remember seeing his father again? Possibly. Wolverine, issue 49, December 1991. Dreams of Gore, Phase 2. Writer, Larry Hama. When Professor Xavier and Jean Grey mind probe Logan's memories to assist him in remembering his past, Logan remembers carving his name into a tree with his father's knife. The memory suggests that Logan views the knife as a sort of family heirloom or treasure. It's quite possible that he believes he received the knife at his father's deathbed, or shortly after his death. Marvel Comics presents issue 40, mid-December 1989. Black Shadow, White Shadow, Hong Kong Inferno. Writer, Marv Wolfman. Logan notes that he threw away a chance to go home years ago. Possibly after his father's death, Logan decided not to take his father's position as the head of his people, therefore ending any chance of ever going home again. Iron Fist, issue 15, September 1977. Enter the X-Men. Writer, Chris Claremont. Logan notes that after being knocked out with a single punch by the Iron Fist, he says that he has not been hit like that since he was a child. Marvel Comics presents issue 117, 1992. Dream a Little Dream of Me. Writer, Howard Mackey. Professor Xavier assists Logan with his nightmares by creating a psychic environment that Logan's comfortable with. As he says, just me in a big overgrown jungle, just like the good old days. Part 2. Silver Fox. X-Men issue 118, February 1979. Classic X-Men issue 24, August 1988. Submergence of Japan. Writer, Chris Claremont. While in Japan with the X-Men, Wolverine reminisces, quote, I was a punk kid the last time I was in Japan. I didn't figure on ever coming back, end quote. But when Chris Claremont fleshed out these early X-Men stories some 9 years later in Classic X-Men, he changed the dialogue to, quote, I was a punk kid first time I came to Japan, and the last time I left, I didn't figure on ever coming back. The updated version represented Claremont's attempt to reconcile Wolverine's statement about Japan before Logan's background had been more carefully considered. In any event, it is during this period of Logan's life that he first ventures to Japan. Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, issue 3, January 1985. Death. Writer, Chris Claremont. Logan notes that his first trip to Japan was longer ago than he cared to remember. Uncanny X-Men, issue 213, January 1987. Psylocke. Writer, Chris Claremont. During a savage fight between Wolverine and Sabertooth, Psylocke, a telepath, extracts information from Sabertooth's mind that suggests a much younger Logan was viciously beaten by Sabertooth a very long time ago and left to die in a bloody snow-covered landscape. For years, fans had noted the physical similarities between Wolverine and the Iron Fist villain Sabertooth. This single panel flashback represents the first confirmation that Logan and Sabertooth did indeed share a mysterious and complicated past. Classic X-Men, Issue 10, June 1987. Tag, sucker. Writer, Chris Claremont. As he walks the streets of Manhattan shortly after joining the X-Men, Logan notices that he's being followed by a mysterious but familiar figure. When a woman from a bar he was just at is murdered, Logan realizes that the person is Sabertooth. Quote, "That laugh, the way the woman died, this whole game of tag strikes a chord in my memory, one I wish I could forget, and sends a thrill of pure terror through my heart." End quote. After nearly being killed in the confrontation by Sabertooth, Logan adds, quote, "Old hates never die." End quote. Chris Claremont quickly followed up with this classic X-Men backstory, giving fans a tantalizing aspect into the past that Logan and Sabertooth share. It will be another 2 years before we finally will be rewarded with Logan's first encounter with Sabertooth, possibly the most epic single story of Wolverine ever written. Wolverine, Issue 10, August 1989, 24 hours. Writer, Chris Claremont. A long time ago on his birthday, Logan remembers carrying a murdered Indian girl, Silver Fox, into a bar, possibly on the northwest Canadian frontier. Inside, a much younger Logan accuses Sabertooth of murdering his beloved, an act he does nothing to deny. Angered by Sabertooth's arrogance, Logan challenges him to a fight to the death. It seems that Sabertooth has been mocking Logan at every step recently, commenting that there isn't enough room for the two of them. Logan attacks the more experienced and older Sabertooth, but without any real fighting style. Logan's attack boasts only ferocity. After the fight destroys the inside of the bar, the two combatants force the action outside when Sabertooth's superiority begins to show. Receiving a savage shot to the ribs, Logan collapses under a pile of wood, seemingly all but dead. But when Sabertooth clears away the rubble, Logan is nowhere to be found. Instead, a trail of blood leads away from the pile. Logan, scared for the first time in his life, ignores the animal instincts to give up and begins to climb the stark cliff ahead of him. Exhausted, Logan finally reaches the top of the cliff only to find Sabertooth waiting for him. Again, for the first time, Logan finds himself taken in a berserker rage. But Logan is outmatched not only in speed but also in strength and skill. Finally, completely beaten and knowing only fear, pain, and anguish, Logan gives up. Yet, before finishing him off, Sabertooth mockingly mentions Silver Fox. Enraged at this final taunting, Logan throws himself at Sabertooth, knocking the both of them off the cliff. Sabertooth lands on top and, mistaking Logan for dead, leaves, cryptically commenting, quote, "Shame it had to end like this, but then, given who we are, what other ending could there be?" End quote. I would call this the most essential issue of Wolverine, Sabertooth, and Silver Fox to ever be written. A story in days gone by of Logan's first encounter with Sabertooth, including that Logan remembers a time before meeting Sabertooth when he climbed sheer cliffs and mountains with his bare hands for fun. Quote, "No man nor beast was my equal, so I set myself against nature, always pushing limits because it never entered my fool head that I had any." End quote. With the departure of Chris Claremont from Wolverine, Larry Hama soon took over the reins for more than 8 years of great stories, adding much to Logan's past. But at the same time, Hama's writing would sometimes contradict or even go against the established continuity of the character. He conveniently added the dreaded memory implant to Wolverine's past to explain for any contradictory memories, further confusing Wolverine's already complex and complicated history.